Hey everybody, it's Intuitive Tiffany Rose, and I've got a friend with me. I'd like to introduce you to Jane Masteller. Did I say that right, Jane?
Yes.
Wonderful. Jane is going to give me an astrology reading. She'll explain what her methods are, but I'd like to introduce everyone to Jane and give you a demo of astrology and how Jane does her readings.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany. So I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to look at some charts that I have prepared to assist us during this reading. So one moment
So
while I
exciting.
make it larger on the screen.
Wow, that's a lot of lines.
Okay. This is Tiffany's astrocartography. And what astrocartography is, it is the astrology of your location. And if you know your exact birth time, you also can have an astrocartography map put together for yourself so you can understand how energetically you are being influenced by the planetary energy in your current area of residence, as well as any place you would be interested in relocating or traveling to. This is also really fantastic to utilize to understand that simply the energy that is in that area where you might be getting certain resources, where people you might be associating with are residing or where they used to be residing. So this is just fascinating. I personally moved from Chicago, Illinois over to Boise, Idaho, so I could tap into more beneficial astrocartography energy, and it feels amazing. I highly recommend, if you know your birth time, to be looking into this type of service. A lot of people's energies can be greatly assisted if you're in a more advantageous area. So what I did for Tiffany is I pulled up your areas that you were born in, which was Kingston, Washington. And I looked at your area for Eugene, Oregon. And I looked also at Boise, Idaho, because I want to point out how it works for how the type of people that you'll be associating with in different areas. And I'm in Boise, Idaho. So let's start with Kingston. So as you can see, we have all these type of lines, and all these lines represent planets, planetary energy. And sometimes when we look at the United States for people, we will see not as many lines as this. And sometimes we'll see a lot of lines. Sometimes we'll see it over more on one area than the other. It varies for everyone. Everyone's astrocartography is different. And there tends to be planetary lines that seem to be a little bit more beneficial, auspicious to head to, and some that are a little bit better to avoid. However, that being said, sometimes we naturally gravitate towards these lines because we are seeking internally to strengthen that planetary energy, to integrate it more within ourselves. So if you find out that you're on a line that seems to be a little bit more challenging than what typically people might think would be a great line to be on, don't fret, because it's doing some magic for you. And that being said, let's go right in and talk about Tiffany being on the Pluto line where she was born. Pluto line. So what is Pluto represented? Well, that's considered one of the bad boy lines. That's a little risky in the sense because, yeah, this is the line that deals with death, transformation, rebirth. Pluto is the ruling planet of Scorpio, and it's dealing with things that are intense in nature. So for Pluto, it's a powerful zone. This is an area where there can be catalysts for change for you where you're living there, and you may find that actually that you are also a catalyst for change when you're residing there for other people. this is a place where it's a process of transformation. But one of the reasons it's kind of considered a bad boy energy is it does deal with more of the darker side of experiences. So Pluto line can be known for power plays, people trying to utilize power on you in a way that is not feeling very comfortable, let's say. And Pluto is dealing with trauma. So it's a line where a lot of times people who are on there, they may be experiencing some type of traumatic type of energy. So what the great thing is it can help you find your power within yourself, but the process there can be very challenging. But Tiffany, as you can speak yourself, I know a little bit about your background, but would you say that you felt that this was an intense and powerful zone where there was situations of trauma that you had to overcome, so you would, and that you a completely different person now than where you were before with in terms of your healing with that trauma?
Oh, yeah. There's been some big ones. I've had like 4 decades of big traumas. I
And
definitely am not the same person today that I was 5 years ago.
how long were you living in that area?
In Kingston area?
And yes.
Well, Kingston, I was only up there until I was about almost two. So like 18 months. And then my family moved um, to Oregon near my dad. So we grew up on a hill that was named after our family, and there were multiple like grandparents, multiple aunts and uncles, not multiple grandparents, but multiple families up there that were all together. So when we left Kingston, we went and kind of joined the family plot. Um, Trying to think if anything big happened up there. When I was a toddler, I wouldn't. I don't know.
Okay, so it's the first year and a half of your life, though, and you are soaking in that type of energy. So, one of the things that we do is then we would look and see, well, how is Pluto aspected in your chart? Because even though we might be considering that Pluto can be a challenging planet, sometimes it can be a little bit more favorable for some people if based on the planetary aspects it is receiving. So for you, and as you know, we're soaking in so much energy when from the moment we take our first breath and then up until what is the age that people say we're the most receptive, around approximately 8 or 7. But so you were getting this energy of Pluto, and look at this, you have Pluto at the 24th degree making an exact sextile energy, which is an opportunist, a favorable opportunist aspect to the planet Neptune, which deals with spirituality, which deals with healing, intuitiveness. So this would have been a very beautiful energy in a sense for you to be coming into power just with your own spiritual sense from being reborn into this new body. So that's beautiful. And actually, your Pluto is in a strong degree. It's in the 24th degree, and 2 plus 4 is 6, which is a Venus energy. So you were favored with that. However, it does make a challenging aspect here to Venus. And so Venus square Pluto can deal with some challenges, possibly with relationships, and where there can be issues where they were feeling like controlled, or that that there's some kind of power play going on in a relationship. So and Venus is like what you want and what you like, and your Venus is in Cancer. And so as a little child, you're thinking like, oh, I have these things that I like, but then it's having some kind of a challenging aspect to Pluto. So of course, as you know, when we're growing up, there can be a lot of times we don't get our needs met and so forth. So that would just be something to be noting, that was in play when you were a very young child. I didn't know you were there. I didn't realize, I should have asked you earlier to know that it was just a year and a half, but it's still notable to know that it was a year and a half of your life. And I would be saying to you, if you were going to say to me, should I go back to Kingston? I would say, I don't think I would like to see you on at Kingston with that strong red aspect between the Pluto and the Venus, that just kind of gives an indication of a possibility of challenges with relationships that would be intense and would be better to try and avoid that energy. So that's just a quick snapshot of that Pluto line for you. You also were on some other lines that I call the horizontal hidden lines, and that you cannot see on here. But when I utilize the software, I click on the software and it gives an understanding of these lines that are called crossing lines. And the crossing lines pack about 1/3 of the punch of the major lines. And the crossing lines that you were on in Kingston were also somewhat challenging. So Sun Pluto crossing line, which can be pretty intense and challenging as well. Saturn Pluto, which can be dealing with challenges where you're feeling like you're having to work really hard. So this is not an area that I would say I would give a big thumbs up for you. But when I look over at Eugene, Oregon, and when I'm utilizing my software, I can really zone in on there and find out what the energy is. And I will say, interestingly enough, where you were born, you were within 65 kilometers of the Pluto line. But now you still are actually still on that Pluto line. Now, I thought you were off of it, but I will say, so you do need to, be aware of, that Venus square Pluto energy. But think about it like that where you've been in your life, you may have had situations where you've had relationships that went sour, where you weren't feeling like this is working for you. And the Venus square Pluto can be a definition of some toxicity in relationships. So really what you would want to be mindful of with that is when you have a challenging aspect in your natal chart, like Venus square Pluto, then you just want to find people who are going to be really strong within their own Pluto energy. So someone else who is Pluto is like dealing with the darker side of life. So you want someone who understands their shadow. You want someone who's done some shadow work. You want someone who goes deep into things and who understands, the mysteries of the world, or who has gone through a lot of psychotherapy. Pluto is dealing with psychotherapy. You want someone who's gone through a healing journey, because if you're going to be considering interacting in a relationship with someone of any nature, whether it's a friendship, a business partnership, or a romantic relationship, and those people are not on the higher level of Pluto, they're going to bring you down to the with the lower toxicity levels. So that's the way you work those hard aspects. You say, okay, well, bring me the best of that aspect that it can possibly be. So you are on the Pluto line there. And what else is the Pluto line great for? Well, it's great for completely reinventing yourself. And as we're going to be talking out through this presentation here, you've continuously been reinventing yourself with your work that you're doing. And this is a very, very powerful aspect to have in the area that's connected with your career. If I was going to be on the Pluto line anywhere, I think I would love to be on the area that's dealing with career. MC deals with the career. So this gives you ability to really be connecting in a really powerful way with the masses. Pluto is connected with large groups of people. Pluto is also, guess what that's dealing with? It's also dealing with that darker side of the experience, which is connected in with like spirits and entities. And, and we know that you've started a new way transitioning into things that you've maybe been doing before, but you've taken it now to the next level where you're doing literally some a spiritual, how did you say it? What is it called?
Spiritual Ghostbusters.
Spiritual.
Spiritualghostbusters.com is my new
Okay, tell
project.
us about spiritual Ghostbusters.
Well, the more entities I encountered and the different types of beings that were coming through, the more I felt the need to talk about it openly. And so I decided I wanted to have a podcast. And Spiritual Ghostbusters just came out like out of my mouth. And I just got titillated and started giggling and like, this is so cute, and I started playing the Ghostbuster music on my phone. And so, yeah, I like a few days later, I threw the website up and said I'm doing it and just went for it.
And then what kind of things are you doing with
So
spiritual ghost busting?
it's going to be, the podcast is going to be talking about anything paranormal. So any kind of ghost stories or um, different galactic beings, visitations, just everything paranormal. Anything that's outside the ordinary is going to get discussed. We're going to talk about it. But on the Spiritual Ghostbusters website, there are listings on there where you can have your entire business cleared, checked for curses and entities and things like that. Um, Corporations, can go through hundreds of employees and just clear everything. But mostly, families, and the main focal point of the Spiritual Ghostbusters website is really to clear entities and curses that people don't realize they have and improve everyone's lives. You know, some of these curses and some of these entities can affect your health. So that's important too, which is, I'm kind of passionate about medical stuff too. So, we might talk some medical intuition on there as well. And I added medical intuition into my practitioner training course with Galactic Mystery School so that, we can be assessing things, um, not just like medical, but, is the issue someone's struggling with, is it metaphysical? Is it actually just a physical, like an injury? So really assessing what's going on with a person. But if people have curses or entities, that affects everything in their life. So it just became really like, I just became really passionate about it because I realized how much it was affecting people. And people reached back out to me after having clearings, telling me that they had huge transformations and that they feel lighter. And so, yeah, I did not know that this is the work I was going to be doing. But when I don't know if it was last year, I said to Spirit or to my guides, like, all right, I'm in, I'm yours. What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to help? They just send me people. I always end up at the right place at the right time. And yeah. So when I dedicated my life over, that's when they started having me do this work that I didn't have a clue I would be doing.
Awesome. So this is a fantastic description of working on the Pluto line. And what Pluto does is it works with things that are microscopic. It works with things literally that are beneath the surface. And that's exactly what these entities and spirits are, attaching themselves onto us. And so this is a beautiful way for you to utilize this dark energy, is that you're like going to battle with it. And what's cool about this with the Eugene line that you have supporting you is the crossing line of the Sun and Jupiter. One of the best crossing lines you could possibly be on. Sun and Jupiter, it's a lovely line. A lot of energy, enthusiasm. You can express yourself in larger than life ways. It favors traveling, studying, teaching, religion,
Yesterday,
and
my
publishing.
clients, yesterday, my clients told me that well, you're larger than life, they said.
Exactly.
And they're here
Beautiful.
telling me.
Well, and this favors all your Jupiterian type energy. And when we get more into your natal chart, we'll see that you have those Sagittarius placements, which gives you that larger than life type of persona. But also you're a Leo, which is quite large in life as well. But this is can be a lucky place to be, and you can find support from other people here. The only challenge can be is if you take on too much, or for some people, certainly not you, but they could become arrogant in that area.
Oh.
Uh, the sun is the ego and Jupiter expands things. But that is a fantastic thing. That's what you want, is if you're going to be on a challenging line, that you have another beneficial line kind of helping that energy. So really love that. You also have a Saturn and your moon node crossing line. Saturn deals with work and your moon node deals with what you need in this lifetime in order to advance. So that's fantastic energy for someone who's serious about their work. If someone is like being a slacker and they're on some kind of a Saturn line, they're not going to like it. They're not going to feel good. But if someone is passionate about their work and they're connecting with Saturn energy, it can be supportive of it. So that's where you are right now in Eugene. And let's just take a little idea about peek over at what's going on for you when you're in when I click on the Boise energy. So Boise energy brings up your Jupiter line, which is one of the best lines there. Remember, I'm Boise. So plugging for myself a little here. This is great. Yeah, Boise energy can be good for you.
You know what's
Jupiter.
interesting, Jane?
Mhm.
I can, how many years ago? Like 10 years ago, I was initiated into oneness, like Diksha, which is an energy modality out of India, in Boise, Idaho.
That is interesting.
That was
So,
the start of my energy work was, that seminar in Idaho. I may have done one class prior to that, but with them. But Idaho was like that seminar was the big, like my like initiation.
and when you said big, that's what Jupiter is. It's things that are big. When you said how your previous client said, like the big energy of you. So this Jupiter deals with all things that are dealing with the higher mind, which is dealing with religions and philosophies. It's dealing with optimism. It's dealing with the ultimate God source. So also the Jupiter is connected in the sector of the MC, which is dealing with your career. So it can be dealing with everything there can be helpful for you in terms of your career. So Jupiter line oftentimes can be a favorable place to be, particularly if your Jupiter is well aspected. But that's always something to kind of be keeping in mind. Oh, should I go to a conference in Boise, Idaho? Well, it's near the Jupiter line. I bet I'll like it. It's that this is how you can use your astrocartography map. Additionally, it's near your moon node line, which is this crossing black line here. And what that line is connected in with is the node line is connected with what your soul needs in this lifetime in order to be advancing. And the node line is real interesting because it has a synchronistic type of quality to it, where you may be feeling like a lot of the events over in that area are faded, where there's past life connections, karmic connections. It promotes major transformation, jumping into the unknown there. Deals with merging your physical gifts with your spiritual gifts, new beginnings, surrender, and loss. And it's really dealing with things that can transform your life to put you on a new path in an unusual new way with all your spiritual gifts. So that's over there in the Boise line. And additionally, you also have a Saturn Neptune energy, which can be good for getting serious about spiritual work, and Saturn moon node line as well with, once again, the work. And Saturn does deal with also teachers, and you were connecting with teachers over there. Jupiter deals with teachers as well. But that just gives you an indication of some ideas of how the energy played out for the first year and a half. And how long have you been in Eugene for?
Well, technically I'm closer to Albany, which is a little more south or a little more north, but I don't know, 30 years or 40 years.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so I have been like in that Willamette Valley area. There's several towns right in there since my dad moved us there when I was like 2. But I did briefly move away when I was 18. I chased a boy all the way to Fargo, North Dakota. I'm looking at those interesting lines over there. Like, how interesting.
Oh, I remember
Um,
this. We're going to talk about
yeah,
that. Okay.
yeah. Um, it was kind of crazy circumstances, but yeah, I packed up my car as an 18-year-old and said, I'm gonna follow, and I went. So we were out there about 4 months or so, and then he wanted to leave. So we packed up in the night. That was what he wanted. And we left and we went back to Oregon. And then we moved down to the San Francisco area. So I'm just looking at all the lines here and how
Mhm.
interesting this all is. So we were right in the San Francisco area and we got married in Reno. It's like right on there. Um, my oldest daughter was born in the San Francisco area. So Walnut Creek, we were living in Martinez at the time. Um, and then I came back to Oregon and have been in like Albany-ish area What year are we in? 2024? That would have been like 2004. So 20 years.
Okay. Well, I heard you just list off some major transformations. You got married on the Pluto line in one location. You had your child on the Pluto line in another location. And
Well, and
when
I
you,
you can say that twice too, because my other two kids were born at home and we lived like we got married in the home and the kids were born in the home. Like right, it's still on that line, like I don't know, about 15 miles north of where I'm at right now. Just interesting, those are big ones, like if twice on the Jupiter line.
on the Pluto line, on the
Pluto
Pluto
line, sorry,
line,
that's what I
right?
meant.
That's okay. Yeah, just major transformational life things of having children, getting married. And when you went out to see that gentleman in North Dakota, it was the Venus line. And remember, I had said like, oh, you have that Venus square Pluto energy in your chart. So it was like, you're going to transform your life and go onto the Venus line for a guy. It's like you still had that Venus square the Pluto energy going on though, because you went over to the Pluto line. So sometimes the Venus line in North Dakota. So you wouldn't want to just say like, oh, I bet I should go to the Venus line. I bet that's going to be roses and daisies because it's Venus. You were like, yeah, that's where my love was, but it probably had a lot of that element of that learning that you needed to do for that Venus square Pluto. And it was like what you said, like he was the boss. He was like, now we're leaving, and you were like, okay, I'm gonna go. And then you were open to completely transform your life in a different way by going to that Venus line. You didn't know how long you were going to be there, but you said like, I'm packing my bags and I'm out. So how interesting. A lot of times we can find the people that we've had romantic relationships or just people that we like that have been associated with our Venus line. So these other lines, they all represent different energies. The Neptune line and the blue one can be a great one to go on to spiritual retreats. That would be Maine for you. That you'd still be able to tap in there, or even kind of being near it over in Boston. The Mercury
Maine?
line,
What's
yeah.
something in Maine?
Well, you're
I've been
probably
on the West Coast my
nothing.
whole life. So
Probably
like,
nothing, but you can probably still be at least somewhat close to it near Boston, but you wouldn't be within the certain radius that the software says it really pulls it up for it to be strong. But we can also still consider that sometimes it's like, well, what line are you closest to? It would be like the midpoint line, what's the middle line of Boston between Mercury and Neptune. So perhaps there could be some kind of a spiritual writings that you would undertake in this area, or spiritual studies. Neptune
cool.
dealing with spirituality. Neptune is a great place to go to enhance your spirituality or your poetry type of things, or music, your art. However, it's not the best for material pursuits, and it does possibly, unless you're doing spiritual work, but it also puts you at risk for being in some type of state of victimhood. Neptune rules victims, and Neptune deals with things that you don't understand clearly. So there could be something that you're even unaware of that could be negatively influencing you. But these are great places to travel. Not always the greatest place to reside, but I have seen spiritual people do well on the Neptune line if they particularly have other planets that are supporting them in that energy.
Now, does
This,
that Neptune line, so we're looking at the purple one, right? Does
yes.
that keep going and hit some tropical islands that I should visit?
Well, there's other international maps, and we can certainly look at that another time. I have not prepared the international maps,
No, I'm
but
just wonder.
yes,
I just
yeah.
wondered.
Well, I mean, it goes somewhere that we have the MC line going here, and then there's three other influences of Neptune somewhere across the globe. So,
Okay, yeah.
so there's international effect as well. So here, Mercury line is the light green going through Florida and coming up near the East Coast. And that's a great place for studying. A lot of people go to the Mercury line to get some kind of education. And this can be a great place if you wanted to write a book or if you wanted to
Ooh.
learn a subject. Also, what's pretty cool about the Mercury line is that it connects you with intellectuals and it possibly younger people, and even makes you feel like you're more young at heart when you're on the Neptune line. The sun line is the orange line here, and this can be a great place for career aspirations, for you to be able to shine. It may be a place where you could meet a gentleman. The sun is connected with the boyfriend or the husband in a woman's chart. And it's also a place where you could have enhanced self-esteem and really becoming even more into your own on the sun line. These are general descriptions, and then we always look at the natal chart to see what shape those planets are in natally for you. The Uranus line here, the blue line here, that can be a place that can be exciting, unusual, where you can expect the unexpected, where things can be really innovative, and being around eclectic type of people who are like astrologers or new agers, or people who are always ahead of their time. The thing with the Uranus energy is it can be like such a certain kind of high vibe energy that some people kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable on it, because it's like you got your finger plugged into an electric socket. You're kind of like got so wired. So maybe some people don't need to be drinking coffee if they're residing on the Uranus line. It would also yeah, because it brings out more of that energy, the nervousness a little bit. Now, this would highlight certain things such as friends, groups, organizations, and you may
Ooh.
find that you're associating with more people who are in the gay alternative community, because that's connected in with the Uranus energy over there. Chiron line is the black line next to it, and that can be a place where you can find healers, or you can find where you can have a healing experience. It can be a great place to go to a healing retreat. Those are some of the great qualities of it. Some of the challenges could be that you may find that you have an old wound open up in this area in order to heal it, which in doing so, the process can be uncomfortable and challenging. So sometimes people are not always so keen on living on the Chiron line. But if you are a healer, just like you're doing transformational work and you're being protected on the Pluto line, I'm doing Chiron type of work. And so I'm on the Chiron line in addition to the Venus line. I've had some experiences that opened up old wounds and so forth, but for the most part, it hasn't been something that would make me think I need to leave this area. I've met one of my closest friends here is also on the Chiron line, and she's even more. I mean, I do flower essences that are healing. The astrology is healing. I'm a speech therapist. That's healing. I say like she seems even more because she's like doing a drum. She's studying to be a shaman. That seems like even more to me in a certain way. So, she's doing pretty well on the Chiron line here too, doing that kind of work.
You
So
know
like,
what's
mm-hmm.
interesting about this placement, Jane, is like Minneapolis, Sioux Falls, Des Moines, that whole area is a past life where I had land taken away from me and our rights taken away. I'm not going to go deep into that past life, but yeah, I know exactly like what happened on that Chiron line in past lives. It makes perfect sense to me that it would be going right through there. And yeah, maybe I need to take a trip there and visit it and sit on the land and do the transformation and healing like you're saying.
Oh man, I just was getting chills because I've been slacking a little bit. I haven't been emphasizing what area of the chart gets influenced with these lines. And for you, it's Chiron and the IC, which deals with the home.
Mm.
So yes,
The
absolutely.
other interesting part is that if we're going to bring past lives in, I had multiple lives being born in that Seattle area. That was this lifetime was my first time being born there.
Oh, over on the Pluto line. Now you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of these times we will have uh, connections with the past connected in, where our moon line will often feel like we're having an affinity for the land and for the ancestors there. Like we have
Yes.
generational roots over on our moon line. You don't have your moon line over here, but all these planets are connected in some way with certain things of your chart that can be bringing out that home influence, just in particular the Chiron in the IC, the home sector. So very good noting that, and that there could be an opportunity for you to come here and do some healing. I mean, you'd probably shed some tears, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And uncomfortable, but healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then the last two that we haven't gone over are the two lines that are really close to each other. That's the red line and the magenta. I call this magenta, the purplish, pinkish line. Now, we already talked about the Jupiter line, luck, expansion, and optimism, and can be dealing with higher mind, expansions, writing, publishing, all can be connected over here with philosophies, religion,
Mm.
expansion. Jupiter, generally lucky. And then we got the Mars line. So Mars is great for being energized. If you're an Olympian athlete and you want to train for the Olympics, go to the Mars line. Or if you want to be training for some bodybuilding, go to your Mars line. If you want to become stronger at like in learning how to enhance yourself with assertion skills or be entrepreneurial, the Mars line can give some benefits in that area. However, Mars line tends to be one of the bad boy lines. You can be a prone for having an injury on the Mars line. I
Oh.
was on the Mars line in Chicago and I had about 3 different accidents. And it's just a risk. Mars is actually the planet that deals with risks. So you're on dealing with risks on the Mars line. I will say it was fun while it lasted. It's exciting. Mars deals with sexuality. You can have some interesting kind of primal kind of sexual experiences there. But it's best to consider what other possibilities are out there for you. But once again, subconsciously, I was attracted to that Mars line. I learned how to assert myself. I had taken social emotional training classes. I had to talk in different meetings where I was having to disagree respectfully with other people who seemed much more capable than I was in knowing how to say no and how to stay. I didn't know how to do those things. So when I took this social emotional training class, I said, oh, thank God. Now I know how to be able to communicate with people. And also, I learned a lot of astrology on the Mars line and did entrepreneurial type of work on the Mars line. And I was athletic. I had fun working out. I did a lot of bike riding. So everything has its purpose in a sense. So this is your Saturn line, the brown line. That's the best one to avoid unless you're a workaholic. It's the school of hard knocks. And I will say some people are find that they can do okay on the Saturn line if you really are very serious about your work. I know that there's one person I know who has a Saturn line. It's connected in with their partner, and their partner is in a very established position. So Saturn deals with achievement and being recognized in a sense as like a leader, being an authority, and her husband is in alignment with that. They are serious people though, and they do live in a sense of like being very budget conscious and so forth. But if you get on the Saturn line, because Saturn deals with restrictions, responsibilities, they're responsible, but it's hard to get off the Saturn line because Saturn like it gives you so many responsibilities. It's like you can't really just so easily turn and leave. So for this couple, I know, she moved over there and is living on the Saturn line there. And then she has children. I don't know if she misses living in her area that she normally likes to live in, but she made that commitment. I'm going to be married to you. I'm going to raise these children here. And she's stuck there at least until the children are grown type of thing. So that's your take on your astrocartography. Is there any last words you'd like to say before we talk a little bit about the relationship snapshot of yourself and I?
I just have one question. Where would Hawaii be? Like which line would be hitting it? Well, that's where my mom's at, so that's why I'm curious. Like it's okay if you don't have it. I just can't
Mm-hmm.
tell like how far out in the ocean it would be.
I don't think we can see Hawaii from here. I think I'm able to find it when I look on the map, but I don't think we can tap into Hawaii based on this
It's
visual
okay.
right here. Okay. I think I've looked into it before, though. I don't recall, but I'll say that the closer we get to Hawaii, or even when we get closer to the equator, the energy starts getting more compact and more powerful in a sense, where there's these uh goodness, the word is escaping me what it is, but it's like acupressure point of the line, where it's like even more powerful in those areas. So when we start getting more closer to the equator, it's kind of real interesting how things line up in a different, more kind of intense type of way. Additionally, where when you go really far north, then things get kind of real wacky, because a lot of the lines can figure up north. And one of the research I was doing on the astrocartography, they said they tried to have a conference up there once, and everything for astrologers, and everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. But they were like, that's because we got this wacky astrocartography up here with all these crazy lines with the energy. So
Wow.
that's just some thoughts there. But
Stuff is
you'll
fascinating.
yeah, this is really powerful, and to me, a big game changer. So in addition to looking at this, I've also started incorporating looking specifically into certain cities based on how their astrology chart aligns with the natives astrology chart. And I'm utilizing something called destiny card system, and understanding what destiny card is assigned with the city and another city. When I first moved to Boise, Idaho, Boise area, I lived in Nampa, Idaho. And I kind of looked and saw what Boise was, and I looked and saw what Nampa was, but I didn't really understand that it actually does make a pretty significant impact. And I just went into the first place that I could find affordable housing that looked good. And I think it was a pretty good step at the time, at least to get over in the general area. That was fortunate for me. But what the real magic can take place is when you understand how to tweak it with the suburbs and the city, if you want to be, because there's little nuances with different cities, towns, and so forth, where you can really tap into some great energy. So one thing that makes me want to stay in Idaho is I'm born on July 3, and Idaho has a July 3 incorporation date.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that before I moved out here. It's one of my lucky places.
Wow.
So not only does it have a Cancer sun sign, but it has it like in the near same degree as mine. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So those are just some additional things. We're not looking into them today, but I do a lot of new incorporations with the location, utilizing the destiny card system, where we're all born under a different playing card. Tiffany, you're a 5 of diamonds. I think I've shared with you before. I remember
Yeah.
researching it recently, and the 5 of diamonds is dealing with values, with money in particular, because diamonds are a money suit, and then and 5 is also like change with values, change with money. But your values can just be what you're valuing, like you're saying, you're changeable with, like, oh, now I'm going to value this type of work that I'm doing more. So it's fun. We could look in sometime when we have other additional time about what your destiny cards say about these different specific locations.
Yeah,
But
that'd be fun.
now let's just have me show you what it looks like. Oh goodness, do I have it here? It's probably right after this map. Okay, so this is what is called a synastry chart. When I put Tiffany's chart on the inside, and I put my chart here on the outside. And this is anytime when I just even know someone that I'm meeting, I'm just visually in my mind, kind of knowing how some of these connections are happening just when I see someone else's chart. But it helps it even more when we place the charts like basically right within each other, and we can see where some of these planets are lining up straight on top of each other, or what kind of lines they make. So when we're looking at these blue lines, these tend to be the more harmonious. They tend to be more gifts and talents and things that just flow quite beautifully. Some of the dangers of the blue lines within our own natal chart is that we can take those gifts and talents for granted, and sometimes it can make us lazy.
Mm.
So the blue lines they're great, but they have their downsides too. The red lines are the ones that are a little bit more, not a little bit more, they are more challenging. These are our developmental tension lines. This is what we came into this lifetime in order to learn and grow about. And the process in doing so may be a little bit uncomfortable, but as we're on a process of learning and growing, that we can integrate those challenging lines, and then it's like we can be more where the energies are blending versus the energies making a conflict with each other. So just when I look at Tiffany's, now I don't even have it on the chart, but I know it in my mind. I knew when I met Tiffany, I was, this could be a good luck because I have something called the part of fortune right on Tiffany's sun. So the part of fortune is just where you can be blessed, where you can have fortune. I have it with Leo energy and I have it in the 12th house. Tiffany is a Leo. Her sun falls right on my part of fortune. And I'm blessed with her being able to help me with 12th house matters, dealing with spirituality, with healing, and having like a really deep connection with someone that's based on a spiritual connection. So I can see that my Venus is near her sun. So that's good when it's someone's sun, their identity, their self-expression is connecting with someone else's Venus, which tends to be sociable, agreeable, nice, and just overall positive energy when the sun and the Venus are merging together. Also, when I look over, that was what my Venus is making a connection with her sun, but then her Venus is making a connection between my Jupiter, my luck and expansion, connected in with her sweetness and her grace and the things that she likes. So, so she likes, my spiritual knowledge that I'm talking about with the astrology and how I do tend to be someone who tend to be trying to Jupiter in Cancer it's in a good placement. So Jupiter is very happy in Cancer. It's called it being exalted in Cancer. So usually it would be bringing out the best instead of someone who would be maybe Jupiter at its worst would be like being someone who would be a bragger or someone who maybe would be just uh, kind of like a bombastic kind of energy, over the top, but Jupiter in Cancer is kind of like it flows well, like the way that I am giving my information to you about my spiritual wisdom, it aligns with you because it's kind of like what you like. That's your Venus. So when we see, Jupiter and Venus are the two of the luckiest planets, and I've got my Jupiter with your Venus, and then you've got your Venus on my sun. So that's fortunate. I'm thinking to myself, hey, I might like this Tiffany. Well, after I met you and was looking at your chart, I bet we'll be good for each other, I was thinking. So additional things that are quite impactful that I noticed when I first pulled up our charts, it must have been a year ago or something. I don't know when I first met you. Time flies, but it's your what we call the North Node, what your soul needs in order to advance, to learn and grow in this lifetime. For you, it's in the sign of Cancer. So a lot of times the Cancer energy type of people can be positive for you because it's helping, it's getting you what you want is your North Node is what you want to be doing in this lifetime in order to advance. It's things that maybe was not a major focus for you in the past lifetime, and it's something that you're being challenged with in this lifetime to stretch your wings and go in that direction so you can experience some of that energy. North Node in Cancer deals with like, oh, now I'm going to be taking an approach where I'm going to be focusing on nurturing, possibly mothering in this lifetime, something to be dealing with the home in this lifetime, something to be dealing with extreme sensitivity in this lifetime. These are all Cancer type of energies. And for you, you have your North Node in the 7th house of dealing with partnerships. So it actually is hinting that it is positive for you to be in some type of a partnership in this lifetime, whether it's a romantic partnership, a business partnership, some type of a partnership. And so once again, I'm going to toot my own horn here. Say like, well, someone's sun and Jupiter on your North Node in the 7th house, like you could probably imagine you might like it partnering up with them in some type of a way. Like they're not going to be a spoiler for you. So you would be like, all right, this is kind of lucky. Jupiter's the planet of luck on my North Node. I like it. The sun is on my North Node. Cool. This can be lucky for me. So that's a fortunate one and interesting. And it can be quite nice to have someone's planets on your North Node because they're kind of like helping you get to where you need to be going in a sense with that type of energy. Because you have a past lifetime of Capricorn energy, which is one of the more challenging past lifetimes. It means lots and lots of lifetimes work and of limitations and of Capricorn deals with some sadness, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a heavy energy. It's one of the more challenging life paths, lots of karma associated with the South Node in Capricorn. So in this lifetime, it's like now you take all that business sense and how can you focus it on women, nurturing others, doing something in your home? You have a home business, and you, one of your, in my opinion, fantastic accomplishments is owning your own home, being a woman, owning your own home. So that's some thoughts on your nodes. And let's now like just notice like, oh, this is interesting. So it's great to have someone's planet on their north node because it helps them move forward in one direction. And sometimes when we meet people who have their planet on their south node, that can be quite interesting too, because you can have a feeling of familiarity because you probably have been together in a past lifetime before. This is a past life indicator. Now, I will say, if I'm going to be looking at someone's romantic compatibility between someone, I may say like, oh, it's a little bit nicer when you have the energy on the north node because that's like the future, whereas the past can be like, oh, like a lot of karma kind of maybe come up later, particularly for the person who has the node there. So somehow you may activate my karmic debt with women, however that may be. But hopefully, and look, but your moon is quite nicely aspected to my stuff, right? When I say like, oh, do I have something to fear? How bad is it? Well, your moon makes a beautiful aspect to my Mercury. Okay, and here I am yapping with you, having a great time. We could always talk for hours with each other. And then your moon makes a beautiful aspect here to your Uranus. So it's like that I benefit from your unconventionality, the innovativeness of you. And the moon is a nice nurturing planet. So I mean, I imagine you were probably my mother in a past lifetime. I do find it's funny because I feel a mothering energy where how I confided in you earlier, like I was like there's something about sometimes where I'm like, oh, I don't want Tiffany to know this. She won't approve of this behavior, or like drinking coffee or whatever it is, whatever I don't want to confess to you. And it is kind of, I always know, like, just like a mother, I know you're right, but maybe I don't want to decrease the coffee, or maybe I don't want to, do some, like, well, okay, I'll just say it. You're a spiritual gangbuster. And if I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, what is it? A Ghostbuster.
Ghostbuster.
You're a spiritual Ghostbuster. And then what attracts spirits, right? Drinking, participating in recreational, what do you call it? Intoxicants, So when I'm like thinking about how to keep my energy strong, I'm always thinking like, what am I doing if I'm having a drink of wine right now? And I'm thinking to myself, well, hey, can I drink the wine and then still have Tiffany work on me? Or would Tiffany just say, Jane, I just don't want to have to keep knocking the spirits off of you. Stop with the wine, So I mean, I'll just share with you. That's
So
how,
funny.
but I've kept it hidden. I'm like, I've maybe not confessed it until right now. But this in general just shows a
You're
path.
funny if you think I would judge that.
Well, it's probably my own, kind of thing. But honestly, you might get a little fatigued after a while if someone is always coming to you and saying they're making the same mistakes. I
Right.
don't know. So those were some of the most noteworthy ones. But what I really love that I think makes our connection beautiful is my moon in the early degree Leo, and your moon in the early degree of Aries. It's fire coming together. And that's one of the things I love about you is your moon in Aries. You're like, let's do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's getting stuff done. Like Aries just goes forward. They're like, the first, they just got this big spurt of energy. And I love that about you. And then additionally, my Mercury makes that beautiful aspect with your Uranus. So like, I love like the way that I think is perfect with all your out there ideas, like other people, if you would say, I'm a galactic astrologer and I'm a spirit, what do you call it? I wrote it down.
Spiritual Ghostbuster.
I'm a spiritual, you say that to someone else, they think you're crazy. And you say
Uh-huh.
it to me, and I was like, oh, this sounds like my type of person I'd like to get to know. So this just gives you some ideas. I talked about the most fortunate ones, the conjunctions that I noted. I did note that, it really is something to pay attention when you do have the nodes connected, and when it's the person's south node who can activate their karmic debt. But with my south node being in Aries, it's more connected in a sense with men, because Aries is ruled by the Mars. So I have to be careful with just knowing that I'm kind of set up for possible challenges with some gentlemen's in this lifetime. And what can I do but say, like, well, I guess I'm just trying to settle the score in this lifetime and reap the benefits later. So that's an idea of what the relationship astrology is. So I go into much more detail and look much more closely. This is just a snapshot, me just pulling it up, and from us being able to see what planets are conjoining each other or make the most harmonious aspects in the early degree planet signs that we have. Now, also, before we move on, if we still have time to talk about the transits, tell me, is there any questions you have or
I don't know.
comments?
I thought that was pretty good little presentation of
Mhm.
how you and I interact with each other astrologically. Um, no,
Perfect.
I thought that was great. I thought that was awesome.
Okay, cool. So now let's just kind of come up here and talk a little bit about the transits, how the current planets that are moving in the sky are currently influencing Tiffany's natal chart. So the planet, let's see if I can expand this there. Okay, so the planets that are on the outside that are in green are the transiting planets, what's currently going on in the sky. And the planets that are inside of the chart are your natal planets, what you were born with, Tiffany. So also, I will point out that you have your sun in the eighth house. So that's interesting that you're on the Pluto line and your sun is in the eighth house. The eighth house is Pluto energy. And the sun being in the eighth house means that you're familiar with that Plutonian type of energy. So it brings that extra kind of flavor out. When we're looking at the astrocartography of someone on the Pluto line, we would say, well, where is their what's going on in their eighth house? And what's going on? Her sun is there. So good for her career, a place for her to shine. And then her Mercury, that she's going to be doing something dealing with the intellect, talking here, that this would be a good place for learning and studying. So there's like a secondary type of influence when we're thinking about what energetic line you're on. Also, let's see, I did make a relocated chart for you, I think. No, I didn't put it in here, but so never mind about that. But let's just point out some of the things that I know is going on for you. So what's going to be going on for everyone in humanity over the next 2 years is a phenomenal change is going on. Now, there's a fantastic astrologer, Steve Judd, and he talks about how he has looked back in history, and nothing in history is showing what is happening up in the last 2 years. And what I'm saying is that in 2005 and 2006, all of the four outer planets for everyone, this is for the transiting planets for everyone, are going to be moving into feminine and into masculine signs. And this has never happened before in astrological history. Steve Judd says, going back in 10,000 years with computer software, we have not seen a transit like this. So the next 2 years are going to be dynamite. So one thought of this is that the consideration would be like, oh, will this be that will be on the rise with the patriarchy and the military, with it moving into the masculine energy? And that could be a possibility. But what is also a consideration is that these planets that are moving into the fire signs and the masculine signs will be carrying all the accrued years' energy of decades of feminine growth transformation. and the unconscious, the subconscious and the unconscious, and bringing it into the masculine signs, which could bring a greater balance through with the feminine and the masculine energy throughout the world. So when you hear people say things like, the world is going to change, we're going to make a whole new world for ourselves, we're moving into 5D. Hey, the astrology shows that something major is going to happen. And I feel like it does show that there is possibilities for some challenges, but also possibilities for some really beautiful things as well. So when I hear the woman who was doing our group, what was her name?
Trudy.
Trudy said things like, well, for the people who have chosen to move into this different kind of 5D, I don't know if she said 5D, but something with in reference to this new world, the changes that are going to be happening that are going to benefit us, that it's going to be fantastic. There's something behind that with astrological significance. So there's major changes that are going on. And if you have if you're like Tiffany and you have planets that are in the early degrees of the zodiac signs, you're going to be getting zapped big time. We're all going to be getting zapped, but you can expect to be getting zapped even more if you're one of those early degree planets. So we're going to be talking about what that means. So let's start with Pluto. So this is Pluto, planet of death, transformation, rebirth. Very impactful for you, Tiffany, because you are on the Pluto line where you're at right now. But what's so great about this is that Pluto is making favorable, nice, harmonious aspects for you. It's making an aspect, the first one that is going to be feeling it is, is Uranus. Okay, Uranus. So Pluto to your Uranus, you had said, I wasn't expecting to be doing the spiritual, I wrote it down. Spiritual Ghostbusters. Now I'm afraid I'm going to say the gangbusters. Spiritual Ghostbusters. I can remember this now. So, and Uranus deals with the unexpected. Okay. And Pluto deals with like the demons, the things that are beneath the surface, the dark side. And then you having this unexpected, thought flash of like, this is going to be my focus. This is what people need. So that is profound. And you're going to continue to be getting support from that. What I love about Pluto is that it can connect you with the masses. And Uranus can be dealing with things that are foreign in nature. And that's what's really cool about you is you have an international clientele that you're tapping into. And so this just works beautifully to connect you even more with people internationally. This works beautiful for all the internet work that you're doing. This is great for all groups and organizations. Your Uranus is in your natal 11th house. So it's just like things that are just going to be exciting going on with you on the internet and with all your websites and things, and just change, unexpected change, but that is exciting and it's good. The changes always tend to be for the better for in this case. And this I feel like also gives you the ability to really attract a large group following, because Pluto dealing with the masses. So additionally, then Pluto comes up and is making a aspect to your Mercury. Now, this is not traditionally known as one of the the most powerful, and it's not traditionally known as the most harmonious. It's actually considered one of the more challenging ones, but it doesn't have to necessarily be experienced like that for someone who is on a learning and growing path. This aspect, the definition of is that there's an adjustment that needs to be made. So Pluto making an aspect to your Mercury, an adjustment in the way that you're talking, an adjustment in what you're teaching, an adjustment in what you're learning, an adjustment in how you're writing and communicating. But additionally, that you'll can have the possibility to become incredibly empowered, and the adjustment bringing a positive transformation. So I was joking with Tiffany before we started filming here, and when I did one of her the lifting the veil of victimhood, the first class of it last week, she was so fantastic. It was anyone that hears this, if you get a chance to attend that in the future,
clearing the victim veil.
Yes,
the homepage my website.
Yes, very powerful, very fantastic. I was trying to decide if I should take it. I looked, I said, well, it kind of conflicts with some of these astrology classes I was considering taking. But then I said, no, I need this. I need this. I know the subject is important. I want to connect with Tiffany. And I looked at the astrology, and it was perfect astrology for working on victimhood. The kickoff of the class was Venus was opposing Neptune, which was like 100% a woman's class dealing with how to handle the being in the state of the victimhood. So I said, this is it. It's a sign. I'm going to take it. So when Tiffany was doing the class, one of the things she did was she did a meditation that was dealing with our subconscious. And when she was doing it, I got myself laying down, I'm listening to it, I'm going deep, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Tiffany is like a really fantastic speaker. I'm like, she's going really deep. She's like sounding like she could be professional, like she's been doing this for years. We talked, and you mentioned you have had a lot of experience in practicing, and that your Leo skills of acting and so forth have helped you with this. But I'll tell you, I was getting in the hypnosis state, and all I could think of was, I was like, where is Tiffany's Mercury? Where is her Mercury? Why is she so good at it? I can't remember. And then I thought, this was funny in the hypnosis. This is like how I have that thing where you're my mother. I think to myself, stop thinking about where her Mercury is. She would tell you, Jane, focus on the meditation, not trying to remember my chart. So I was like, it's okay, Jane, you'll look right after the class is over, or you'll remember it. And sure enough, I remembered, oh, of course, it's in the 0 degree of Mercury. So when your Mercury is in the 0 degree, it is the ultimate potential. It is like the tarot card of the Fool, where you're just opened up to the world, and you can bring out the best and the challenges of that zodiac sign degree. So what is the best of Mercury in Virgo? Well, guess what? It's one of the best positions. It's one of the natural rulers, and Mercury in Virgo is known as being highly intelligent, highly attention to detail. And Virgo is also healing energy. So when she's going in there and she's doing this hypnosis work, and then she's using Pluto, which is dealing with the depths, like you're saying, we're going to go in there, and we were transforming trauma. Pluto is connected with the trauma. We're going to make an adjustment. We're going to do this visualization. So, I mean, it's just beautiful use of that energy. So when someone's like on a learning and growing path and in love with their job and so forth, a lot of these things are just experienced quite beautifully and so forth, like you are right now with how your profession's unfolding with this. So we're having lots of ways where you're empowering yourself and dealing with, now you're dealing with where you're talking about what kind of adjustments do we need to make for get these entities off, these spirits, these demons. And so we can, be living a life that's meant to be lived and not be held down. I mean, Pluto is like dealing with the grossest things in the world. Actually, it deals with things like all kinds of insects, all things that are disgusting. And what's more disgusting than like parasites? And that's what these entities and so forth are on us, are parasites. So not only that, but then Pluto starts working on your moon. So but Pluto in a harmonious aspect to your moon. So we're dealing with the opening up of the energy of transformation even more with your subconscious. The moon is dealing with lots of memories, and it's dealing with your home, it's dealing with your interactions with women, it's dealing with your own emotions. So this may be, when you had mentioned I might like to go back to the Chiron line and have a healing experience, this does speak to that you would be having a healing experience on some type of a homeland. This can be a possibility to enhance your home even more with feng shui type of things. This can be of understanding more of your ancestry and having more positive transformation within your own relationship with your mother and your family with this. So this is awesome. And then we have that Pluto coming in over into the 3rd house, aspecting that moon. So it's giving the transformation of even about connecting in with how you're speaking about different things. and working on people with their subconscious. So that's fantastic and exciting. So when I am doing your monthly readings, I'll be reminding you of these dates, and I'm going to also send you out a list. I don't want to list them on here and say all the get logged down in the dates, but sometimes we're going to be having different aspects that you'll be making these hits to these planets like up to 5 times, and it's like you're getting like a continuation, like to be continued, of how
Oh
it's going to
boy.
roll out again. And so when it's a positive aspect, it can be considered, quite favorable. So it might be interesting once you get the dates to be keeping track of what's happening for these most major ones. I'm going to always highlight them and keep track of them. I'm going to be doing Tiffany's monthly updates, and so I'll be mindful about them myself too, and we'll be watching as it plays out. Now, this one, sometimes I notice it real easily, and sometimes things surprise me when I run it on the software. You additionally, this was the surprise, have Pluto making a aspect to your MC sector. So it's dealing with change in the career, change in the way that people see you. Okay, transformation. So, but this just happened. Okay, so this is what kind of blew me away when I saw this date. Let me remind myself what day it is here. What day is it?
August 30th.
It's August 30th. When I ran the data for you, Pluto squared the midheaven, August 30th. That's like, oh, it's happening today, but here
Wow.
we are talking about your spiritual gang of Ghostbusters, your spiritual Ghostbusters. And we're also talking about, utilizing astrology and so forth, and all the changes that you've made in your career. So the square can deal with some developmental tension. What if you were going to say, I don't want to change, I'm going to stay the same, I don't want to make the changes on my website or things like that? Then it could be deal with developmental tension. But the square also is the impediment for action, moving forward. That's one of the good things about a square, is that the energy is dealing like with a Mars kind of quality, where it's like an initiation type of thing. We're initiating an action. It's giving us strength to go forward, to be doing something that ordinarily we might not have the energy to do. So for this, it's just dealing with more transformation with the way that people see you, because the MC is dealing with the career. It's also dealing with your career reputation.
Mhm.
So that's going on. And then not only is Pluto, remember I said like these 3 outer planets are working on all of Tiffany's planets there. But then what's making the big deal is it's these outer planets that move very slow. The slower that the planet moves is the more powerful the aspect. So that's why we're focusing mostly on these slow moving planets. But now we have Neptune right in the mix too, at the late degrees of Pisces. And I will tell you that this was pretty cool for me to see. And I wonder, when you were having all those changes and everything with your website and how you're moving forward with spiritual ghost busting, well, you had Neptune making the square aspect to your ascendant on August 15th. So that would have been about a week after your birthday. So when were you having all the when was the first thing of like you making all the changes and so forth, or getting the inspiration for the changes?
That's about when I got, that might even be the day, 15th, that might even be the day that I came up with the spiritual Ghostbusters idea, because I created the website on the 20th, which is just 10 days ago. And it had only been a few days. So yeah, I probably came up with the idea on that day.
Yeah, Neptune deals with inspiration. So someone who is experiencing it kind of in a negative way would have been maybe feeling confused, or they would have been feeling like, I want to, get involved with some drugs and alcohol, some spirits right now. I want to escape the world. That's the lower energies of Neptune. But the higher energies of Neptune is inspiration, it's creativity, ultimate creativity, it's spirituality, it's healing. And so for you, and it's intuition, and really strong empathy. So for you, it was inspiration. I'm gonna, and your thing of calling it the spiritual Ghostbusters. That is like literally two Neptune words. Spiritual is Neptune, and ghosts are Neptune as well. So
Wow.
really cool. And you're gonna
Wow.
get one, two, three, at least three more hits of Neptune to your ascendant. So it's going to be more times of inspiration and possibly intuition and so forth. So that's really cool that
Hey.
it played out beautifully for you. And you'll have all the dates here. I just don't want to list them off or we'll start to bore everyone. But I will say that let's look at the next one. Let's stay with just these slow moving planets, and then I'll go to the faster moving planets if you feel like you would like to. Um, One moment while I scan this. Okay, so I did realize actually that there was one Pluto aspect that I forgot to mention that I want to discuss. And this just really is important. I share this because you're on the Pluto line, and this just shows like how crazy transformational period you're going to be going through. Because I had said anything at the early degrees is going to be getting the aspect to Pluto. And I forgot to mention your Mars and your Jupiter. And this is in your 10th house, which is dealing with your career and how people see you. So, Mars and Jupiter, actually, one of the positive benefits of that can be with money, actually. Jupiter is
Tell.
expansion, and Mars is moving forward with the entrepreneurial type of pursuits. And so it can be considered an exciting, advantageous energy to have in your chart. Now, Pluto is making the square. So when we're thinking of Mars, that's dealing with your energy. So one of the things is that you can have a lot of energy possibly to be moving forward and working on your goals. And it
You know
makes
what, Jane? Just like 3 days ago, yeah, the night we had that class, I got on the phone with one of the other students and she said to me, "You have so much energy." And I said, "I do?" "Yeah, you go through and you just come up with this idea and you go for it and you just da 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 da." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't occur to me that I had that kind of energy." And here you are saying how much energy. It's funny.
Well, you have it in your natal chart that you could have expansive energies. And then it's getting stimulated even more with Pluto making its motion in those early degree signs. So one of the concerns is you might not notice if you need to rest. So you don't want to overdo it. And so just be aware of when you need to take your breaks and so forth.
I just scheduled rest
Mhm,
days because I
mhm.
worked so many back-to-back fairs on weekends and I wasn't taking Mondays off. So now I just implemented that within the last like 2 weeks. I blocked out all the Mondays after fairs and blocked out Fridays to prep so that I would have that more downtime.
Beautiful. Uh, and that will continue to serve you to have those days off. You definitely need that. So one of the additional things is that Pluto making an aspect to Mars sometimes could be dealing with possible accidents and possibly accidents if you're not constructively managing any kind of irritations or frustrations you have. So it can be to your advantage to make sure that you are being proactive with that, and just know like you want to be thinking to yourself like, okay, these are going to be in effect in March of 2025. You're getting 4 hits at least, and then June of 2025, and then 3 hits later. So you want to be like saying like maybe around that time I'm not going to be skydiving.
Oh my gosh.
Or
March and June, don't do anything dangerous. Okay, got
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Don't
honestly.
travel. Should I not
Or
travel in those months?
you just in particular you don't want to travel if you are irritated, if
Mm.
you're, or I mean, I will say once I was really mad I had gone on the Mars line. Can you believe it? Back in Chicago. And I'm riding my bike and I'm mad at my partner. And then I was being careless. It was getting to be dusk. I was wearing black and I did not have a bike reflector light. So needless to say, I attracted an accident and someone came and swiped me from behind with their side mirror. I flew back and was like body slammed onto the floor. Thank goodness I didn't hit my head. I was not wearing a helmet. It would have been a disaster. So the thing that I learned was like, oh, interesting. I got in the accident because I was mad while I was exercising and out there doing risky behaviors. Yeah, you would think, well, riding your bike is a good way to let off steam. Wearing black and when it's dusk, not so smart, and in the street.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I don't want to blame myself, but also I don't want to be in a victimhood state and say, oh, I got hit in the car. It was like, what take some personal responsibility there. So it would just be like, I don't think you're a person that would be wanting to skydive anyways. I don't even recommend sensitive people skydive. I heard someone say once, people who have real sensitive auras, it's like it's not helpful to be jumping out of a plane, and I would tend to agree. I just don't think it's in our this when we're at this age, like pretty much I don't want to do anything too risky. I'm like, the most risky thing I do is ride my bike on the Boise bike trail without a helmet still. But
Mm.
I'm not going to go riding on a dirt path, kind of things, and I'm not really interested in doing, but it could even just something to be mindful of, and that if you do have some kind of this can deal with the power play too, with Pluto coming to Mars, that there could be some kind of a conflict. So one of the advice for this is that you would want to reach out to other people as well and say, how would you suggest that I handle this situation? I think you're pretty good at doing that anyways, so that'll come naturally to you. But this also can just be like a fantastic where it doesn't have to be dangerous, where you can be bringing out the best of that energy of that square, where it's just electrifying you to be expanding with your university. Jupiter is dealing with the university and Mars is like kicking it off even more. So think of it as it can just be even more positive transformation. It's something to look forward to, and just be mindful of handling any frustrations and not overworking yourself.
Mm.
That was the last Pluto aspect. So I had mentioned
That's one
that.
of my biggest challenges is not overworking myself.
Well, just having the Mercury in Virgo, Virgo is a workaholic, and Mercury's like what you think about. And so and and it does make a challenging aspect to Chiron. So it is like, yeah, that you could kind of weaken yourself, if you are not allowing yourself too much, a little bit of rest type of things with Virgo always wanting to be working and so forth, and never really turning off their brain, Virgo.
Yeah, that makes it hard for me to go to bed at night. And it's not so much that I can't shut my brain off. I can. I don't know. It's like being a toddler where you fight sleep.
Well, it's a
It's a problem for me.
well, well, I will say you do have some interest. You have the toddler energy of the Aries. Aries is kind of like a toddler at the moon, and it is like the child.
Childlike
Yeah,
boy.
yeah, yeah. You've got it. The Leo energy can be a little childlike as well. And then I think Virgo is just like, that you're still just like, I just got a lot of things still to do. I got a lot of things to improve. That's the Mercury in Virgo. How can I improve something?
I also get more like psychic downloads at night. So that kind of keeps me up too, because then I'm, seeing visions and stuff. And so that, yeah.
Oh, in your chart, you have Mercury square Uranus, which also makes you very wired, of where you'll be having these strokes of eureka thoughts of like, now I
Yeah.
have a new invention, now I have a new idea, or
Yeah.
it's just things that come out of the blue that can be stimulating. And when I said that living on the Uranus line is like you're plugged into the electric socket, well, yeah, it's like the way that you think is kind of connected in with an electric socket, so it can.
OMG.
Yeah, it's like you're wired
Wow.
at a higher level. So perhaps before you were knowing how to manage this, this energy, it could have been bring out a lot of anxiousness, a lot of
Yeah. In the past,
mhm, mhm,
not as much now. I don't really get anxious about it, but I used to in the past before I kind of understood myself.
mhm. Okay. So Neptune, the slower moving planet, also going to be going to work on all your early degree planets too. Neptune on the moon. That's even more like you getting deeper in with the hypnosis with people. That's you becoming even more intuitive and even really healing on an even deeper level, going into maybe ancestral type of healing connected in with the moon. And I also feel like this is connected in with you having the spiritual gatherings at your home, because Neptune is dealing with spirituality, the moon is dealing with the home, and eventually over in 2025, Saturn's going to get in the mix too. And that's like doing spiritual work in the home.
Yeah, we
So,
were talking about doing some soul journeys with a friend of mine. She makes these really wonderful organic blends of cacao and mushrooms. And she made this new blend recently that she just said like lit her brain up. She was just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. You have to try it." And so we were actually talking about planning some of those events in the home, mine and then hers. She's up in the Seattle area, and having people enjoy the cacao and mushrooms and then take them on a soul journey. So it's interesting you mentioned that because that was actually it's in the works.
and Neptune can deal with substances. Things that are like medicinal in nature. It deals with any supplement, any kind of drug, anything that would,
Interesting.
and meditations. Yeah. So, and then how you said, let's go travel in the mind, then it's happening in your third house of home. And this is Neptune's going to be in Aries when it finally goes in there in 2025. It's going to be there for like, oh my goodness, I can't think off the top of my head. I don't know if that's another 20 year one, but it's very slow moving as well. So, in addition, Neptune is going to be making a beautiful aspect to your Uranus. So it's going to be like the things that you're going to be becoming even more intuitive about innovations that you're going to be making. You're going to be having even more spiritual innovations, and just being in complete harmony with things that are created with the new, the innovative, the unexpected, unconventional, in harmony with all your spirituality, all your
Well, if my
intuition.
really out of the box ideas that I come up with.
Yes. I mean, it's beautiful for the energy of your school
Yeah.
with this, because when I think of your school, it's an online energy. That's Uranus, that's the internet. And then it's dealing with the 11th house, that's groups and organizations. Your school is like a group. So that's Neptune energy is going to be supporting your Uranus beautifully. And it's also going to be making an aspect over to that Mercury again. So you're going to be having even more intuitive insights, becoming
Yes.
even more, more,
Yes.
yeah, more, even more sensitive, and just more opportunities for healing. And this is a perfect aspect for connecting in with the hypnosis kind of things and the meditations. And Neptune rules film as well. So all of this, all the films that you do, what we're filming here today, and all the other things that you film are gonna just gonna have great supportive energy.
Yes. That
Mhm.
was like my next big phase was to start just really making videos and going, online more. And it was a challenge for me to get going in that regard because I have so much else going on. But that's exactly the phase that I'm like mentally the last several weeks, like, okay, I'm ready to go do that. I've done XYZ and now, yeah. So it's interesting. Everything that most of the things that you've mentioned are things that are like literally happening right now.
Well, you're already feeling some of the energies because it's still within the orb where it's starting to get close. Like when you have those 0 degree planets, and they're feeling still like the Neptune at like the, where is Neptune now, at like the 29th degree, it's still feeling it, even though it hasn't gone exactly in that sign, it's still like within 1 or 2 degrees. So
Yeah.
you're feeling it. And so it's more like the inspiration is happening here. Things may be coming, even other new things come up and becoming even more actualized later. It's just very exciting time for you. Now, where I'm going to briefly go into some of the real lucky ones that you can be like, yay about, that are a little bit not as slow moving planets, but are fun to see. So June of next year, Jupiter, which is going to be in, no goodness, it will be in, when Jupiter gets in the 0 degree of Cancer, it's going to make a beautiful harmonious aspect to your career sector. So luck with career, luck with your university, things going well in June of 2025. Also, June 22nd, a couple of weeks later, then Jupiter makes a beautiful aspect to Jupiter. So it's like
Oh,
the two lucky planets. So the Jupiter aspects, they're fun. It can be like things are going harmonious. You're just feeling good. It's like almost like that. Those can be a time when like things aren't getting you down like they might normally for a typical person. So even if nothing remarkably fantastic happens, at least you're feeling decent. You're feeling peace. You're feeling calm. But in general, it's a great time to maximize these energies when you know about it. So I would definitely be saying, yes, I want you to schedule on or near June 22nd. That's when Jupiter trine Jupiter, or on or near June 9th, certain
I'm
events.
like, want to grab my calendar
Don't
off the
worry,
wall, but
I've
it's not for 2025 yet.
we'll get into some that are a little earlier, I think, than that. I think, but that this is cool for you to know that like June, just remember to yourself, June is very fortunate. Good time to be, when you had said, oh, maybe I would like to have a retreat. I perhaps that might be a good time to have a retreat with and were you traveling somewhere? Even as I say that, I get a little bit nervous because I think,
Because you
oh,
also said to be careful in June. You said
yes,
March and
yes,
June, don't
that's
injure
right.
myself.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then, but also with the changes going on in the world, I would prefer that you would just not be traveling far. So maybe have people come travel to you, and then I won't worry about
Well,
you.
maybe I should just have everybody meet me in Boise.
I would love that.
And then you can be there.
Well, because it would be the Jupiter line, you
Right,
know?
that's what
So
I'm saying.
honestly,
Boise's a good
yeah.
spot for me, right?
Yeah, it is interesting to tap into that. Or even if you're just we would be doing something even online or something. Who knows? But
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
to maximize this energy. It's fun, it's good, it's lucky. Even if you're a person who likes to buy a lottery ticket here or there, you could consider doing it. But this would be like when you're hopefully benefiting even more from all your money Reiki things that you do, type of thing. That's your own lottery ticket, right?
Yeah.
So here's another interesting thing. Now, this is a big one that we haven't talked about, and you maybe have heard of it before. Have you ever heard of the Uranus opposition that happens around age 43?
I think I have that on my soul timeline in my binder here.
You probably do, because it's a big one.
Yeah. I thought it was like close to 44, but
Oh,
43.
it could be. Yeah. It's a little bit different for everyone. You're going to have it exact. You're going to get 3 hits, and
There
your
it
first
is.
hit is going to be of July of 2025. And Uranus opposing Uranus is known as the midlife transition, of like that something is going to be changing. So if there's ever, basically anytime that you already are like this, you're not
It's
resisting.
42 is what it says, and I just turned 42. It says
Well,
self-liberation, Uranus opposition, shedding the skins of the past, embracing individual self, freedom from conformity.
I don't know if yours is using some slightly different
Maybe
kind
it's
of,
something else.
it may be using a certain kind of different orb, or it might be using a different kind of house system,
It's called
or
Map of the Ages.
yeah, so that's possibly a little
Something
different,
else.
but you're already feeling it. Okay, Uranus is in the late degrees of Taurus energy right now, and your natal Uranus is in the early degree of Sagittarius at the 0 degree. So you're already feeling it. So it's in orb
Mhm.
right now. It's going to be exact in July of 2025. So this is a time where, like had mentioned before, you're a person that you have an idea and you change. You don't stay the same. You're not a stalemate. So they're going to get a lot more of these kind of things where something unexpected happens and you say, yes, I'm going to take advantage of that. So this is a time when it can be like almost like a time where generally if people's lives are, if they need to rebel in some way, they're gonna it happen around this time, and it can be
Mhm.
helpful for people who maybe have not who needed to get out of some kind of rut that's not serving them anymore. But for you, it can just be like even more, even more innovation, even more newness, even more. Okay, what am I doing now with my online website? Something different, or I'm connecting with different friends. Now I'm going to change a group. I'm going to make a new group. It's exciting. Oftentimes, it's exciting. Experience is
Yeah.
exciting. So that's be an exciting time in addition of next so this is next year you'll have Jupiter on your north node. Jupiter will be moving over in on that 11th degree, and eventually, and that's a fortunate time as well. Luck and expansion in the area that's dealing with your soul growth, and it's also connected in with your seventh house. When Jupiter moves into your seventh house, that makes it even more lucky with partnerships, and even more spiritual people coming into your life, even more people that you're feeling like you're able to expand. Jupiter also has a connection the with the international community as well, of foreign people. So that's fantastic and exciting for next summer. And this you're already having a nice aspect where Jupiter is making a nice aspect to your natal Saturn. Saturn is dealing with your business, and Jupiter is dealing with luck and expansion. So this was exact on August 20th. You were working on your website then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the day I built it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah,
And I just
perfect.
thought how crazy to myself, like I just did it. I came up with an idea like 3 days later, put the website up, and then I went and blasted it everywhere and I went, "Oh my God, what did I just do?"
Yeah, it's exactly it. Expansion of your work that happens harmoniously without, a great deal of effort. Yes, you
It
were
was
working,
easy.
but yeah.
Like
Hmm.
it felt so fun. I was so inspired and I was giggling. It was so like the cute little characters I made of myself to go with the blog articles. I mean, it was just like so entertaining and fun.
Well, Jupiter is known as being like one of the entertainers, the jokester of the zodiac, so really
Yeah,
cool
I
that you
was
put
in full
humor into
humor,
it.
like really
Yeah.
good humor when I was
Yeah.
doing it.
Beautiful. Now you're going to get two more hits of this, November 27th of this year and April
Ooh,
10th of this year. So those are additional times, lucky days for
April
work.
10th of this year, because we passed April 10th of this
No,
year.
April 10th of next year, excuse
Next
me.
year.
Mhm.
November 27th.
Correct, of this year. And
And
then
that's a really good day or inspiration.
it's a similar good day as when you put your
Yeah.
website up. So it's a good day for expansion of your work that will flow with harmony. It can be a
Awesome.
good day for traveling for work. If there's, I don't know if they have fairs around that time because it's more
It's
holiday
a
time.
Wednesday in November,
Mhm.
but I will be traveling. Oh, it's the day before Thanksgiving. And I'm supposed to travel that weekend to Linwood, Washington for a fair up there. And I thought to myself, am I nuts to travel on Black Friday and go to a fair? But I don't know. I asked and they said I was supposed to go, so I'm going.
I would say go. Jupiter trine Saturn is a go for me.
Yes.
Astrologically good. Additionally, you'll get that on April 10th of 2025.
Awesome.
Okay, starting in January, Uranus is going to be making a harmonious aspect to your Venus. Okay, so that's it, probably already has made an aspect to it. Now that I'm looking, it must be Uranus going retrograde to be able to make that aspect, but it's going to be exact on January 13 and exact on February 16. So that can be a time where you can have excitement within your relationships, where you might meet new, interesting, new people, or you may just be having a, just a it's just an exciting time with people. But those are good times to be doing things online with the Uranus energy and connecting in with women as well, in particular. But any social contact is connected in with Venus. So that's January 13, 2025, and February 16, 2025. So make something kind of cute for you around Valentine's Day. Like I know it's like a generic kind of holiday and everything, but maybe like you and your daughters or something, or you guys kind of do something kind of fun that you something that's like kind of whatever, however it could be, where it could be seen as like fun, rebellious, exciting, innovative, new type of way to celebrate your relationships. And this one is a good day for
Fun.
business, a great day for business for you. And this would be March 22nd of 2025, Saturn making a harmonious aspect to your Venus. So
Mhm.
I know that there's a person I know that that has a connection with Saturn and Venus with you that you're in aligned with within your business. I won't say who it is on here, but I will hint to you later who it is because you'll have good luck with them around that time, that this individual that you have business ties with. So that's a good time for that. And I think that's up. Did I get it all?
I think so. We definitely need to wrap it up. We're over an hour here.
Imagine that me
Talking for more than an hour. I know.
I'm trying to bring it down, but it was so hard. There was also other days I was like, oh, I can't. I was like, I just can't tell her about it on this. But there was also like a lot of other fun dates. It was like a that you're having. So I feel like the future is quite bright for you. It's quite exciting time, and it's a
Yay.
like I feel like you're coming, the people who have these early degree planets, it's like that they're somehow opening up a whole new dimension into their life. Like it's good. I feel like if we're going to be experiencing astrology that humanity has never experienced before, it's a great indicator to me that it's going to be something along the lines of that when we look back, our lives are going to be unrecognizable to what they were, before.
Wow.
Even
That's
even
huge.
as it is, it's already becoming unrecognizable for you.
Yeah, no, my life is completely different. I could not have predicted how things would turn out.
Well,
No
thank you
way.
so much for letting me share with what I'm doing. So what I'm trying to do, as you can see, this is like so much information. That's why I'm breaking it down into my monthly forecasts. So I'm going to be doing monthly forecasts for Tiffany, and that's something I can be doing for everyone. What I do is I look and I see when these most important dates are. I peek into the future, but we focus really on 1 month at a time and how to utilize your best energy days, what days to lay low, and just overall what to be aware of in your chart. The weekly updates are great, excuse me, monthly updates, because they help you remember over time. Because if you're not very familiar with your astrology, it's easy to get overwhelmed and forget it all and say, I don't even know, and I don't have time to go back and listen. But what I do is I send you a monthly update into your of a pre-recorded video that I make for you, so then you can listen to it in your leisure. I also will put out the most important dates in a written format, so even if you don't have time to listen to the video, that you can just scan the email and say like, bang, awesome, I'm going to move forward with that on that day. It's a great way to utilize the energy of the planets. And I'm a type of person, I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't do things on certain days, but let's be smart about it. Let's utilize the planets in a smart way. If a Saturn's making an aspect on that day, then you're going to have to just work and continue to be dedicated with the work. Or hey, if the moon is void, just use that time to meditate. That's what the best way to utilize the energy is. And let's do a little forced rest here. So I thank you so much, Tiffany. It's always a pleasure, and that's all.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. If you would like to have an astrology reading with Jane, you can hit her up on janemasteller.com. And we'll see you next month for another forecast. Bye for now.
Bye.